Welcome to Real Deal. I'm Jazelle, and welcome to a very special, quick episode that will be about materialists. Apologies for the sound. We love a wash cycle podcast, and I think let's just dive into it. Materialists is a 2025 film starring Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, and Dakota Johnson. This movie is directed by Celine Song. And if you know Celine Song, she directed Past Lives, which is an incredible film. And it's really just like completely gut wrenching and heartbreaking. Um, I don't even really know how to describe it besides like it'll ruin your life. Materialist though stars, let me redo the description. A young New York City matchmaker's lucrative business that gets complicated as she finds herself torn between the perfect match and her imperfect ex. Now, let me get into this because she is a matchmaker. She goes to this wedding. She meets Harry, played by Pedro Pascal. Her name's Lucy, it's played by Dakota Johnson, and she is at this wedding and she runs into her ex, John Finch, which is played by Chris Evans. Now, it gets a little sticky when Harry is trying to get her number, but also she is meeting up with Chris Evans, John Finch, after the party, and he offers to give her a ride, and they're like, no, this is too complicated because of our crazy past. And so then, you know, that's when it all gets too messy. I really love this dynamic between Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans' character. I think they're very cute. I think that their like troubled past gives them a little bit like, ooh, what scorn is this? But I mean, obviously Pedro Pascal is Pedro Pascal. He's like very hot. Um, and so we love him for that. As we get into the nitty-gritty of it, as the plot develops, we see that, maybe Dakota still has feelings for um what's his name? Chris Evans character, John. And she's like going on all these dates with Pedro Pascal. She's like, why do you want to date me? Why do you want to date me? And here it gets a little annoying because I'm like, girl, why are you hyping yourself down like this? So she's at dinner with Pedro Pascal and she's just like, you don't want to date me. I'm from the wrong side of the tracks, basically. I'm like, not us hyping ourselves down. That's crazy. That's crazy. And he's just like, why do you think I'm that fucking shallow? No. Wrong move, Dakota Johnson. Wrong fucking move. Then as we're going on, we see that, she is staying at his house all the time. They're hooking up, and John is in the background getting every call. He invites her to his own play. He's a like little starving artist, little actor, and she used to be an actor too. All of a sudden, we get a flash of them in the street arguing and talking about money, and I'm like, "This cannot be the way. This cannot be the freaking way." And I'm just like, "Oh, we see why they broke up because they're arguing about money. She doesn't wanna live a little poor life," and he's just like, "Well, this is who I am." I just, like, truly feel conflicted about this because, like, I get where she's coming from. But also, like, clearly they have chemistry, and I don't know, like, the love of your life or the person that you want to, like, build a, like, not economically prosperous and, like, fulfilling future with. Like, she wants to travel and do all these things, have nice things, and he can't provide that for her, unfortunately, at least not now, right? And so, it's just, like, a really hard dynamic for her, and I feel bad. I feel bad. Around this time, she gets a call from her agency that she's checking in on all of her clients, and let me back up a little. She finds that this one girl, Sophie L, is not calling her back. She's like, why is she not calling her back? Why is she not calling her back? She calls the date the date's like, yeah, the date went great, da 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 da. She's taking it for face value. All of a sudden, she goes to the fucking agency girl, the matchmaking agency that she works with. They call her in and they tell her that her client was essayed on her date that she set her up with. And he did not match his description at all. And things just go from like bad to worse. And this really plagues her character. She feels a lot of responsibility for setting her up because, he told her all of these things. And, that's partially. I don't even think that's like fully her fault, How are you going to stop someone from lying to you about this? And you know, she immediately is like trying to find the description in her journal about what this guy was like. And it just like really gets crazy. And she's trying to find pretty much like where she went wrong. And I actually really appreciated this point in the movie because it was like a huge plot twist where I did not expect this coming from like this romantic drama. And I think that it's a pretty realistic sort of portrayal of what is happening to some people when in the dating scene, And I could really appreciate that. Um, on and on. She's like on this hunt to find Sophie and get in contact with her, but she is suing the agency for what happened with her and because they set her up on the date and they didn't do like all of the right investigation into who this guy is before they set her up. Pretty much the boss is like, "Hey, Dakota Johnson, like, don't go to find her. We'll deal with it on our end and just let it go. This is part of the trade." And like that's pretty fucked up. And so she's just like, "No, like I'm gonna go get in contact with her." So she does, tracks her down in the street, and pretty much Sophie is just like, "You know what, girl, fuck you. I can't believe you did this to me. Like, you set me up on this date without doing all the fact checking because you're just trying to get me with anybody." And I get it. I get it. It was like a really hard conversation for Dakota Johnson's character to feel, Lucy, because she has to face these realities that like not everything is an equation, not everything is math. Like, these are people's actual lives that you're dealing with and people's emotions. And she has to deal with the consequences of that. And, sometimes that shit is fucking awful. And, you can't just like throw someone X, Y, and Z. Oh, he's 5'6", he has a good job, like he'll be great for you. And, not 5'6". Oh, I mean 6'5". But anyways, yeah. So that's happening in the background. She doesn't tell Pedro Pascal's character, but she tells her ex, John. He's getting all the tea with it. And, we're really starting to feel like the disconnect. I have to say, like, for me personally, this doesn't really feel like a love triangle because it's obvious the whole time that she's into him. Like, she's sleeping around with Pedro Pascal, which I get, but like, Chris Evans is clearly the man for you, girl. I don't know what to say. Um, it comes at a really dramatic point where and obviously I'm skipping through a lot of things, but pretty much like Dakota Johnson's like, "Listen, Pedro, I have feelings here that are non-existent." He's like gonna propose to her in Iceland. I feel like this. I also don't know like the pacing of this movie. Everything feels like it's happening really fast, and he's like gonna propose to her. I'm like, you guys just started dating. They're going to Iceland. What is happening? And pretty much he um is in bed and he has like this weird little secret scar that she's looking at, and she looks at it and she's like, what is that? It's on his leg. And he like rushes into the kitchen. Girl, come to find out it's a leg extension. This man was 5'5", 5'6". He's 6'1" or something. I'm like, that's crazy. That is crazy. And you know what? That's not even bad. I'm not even mad at him about it. He's Pedro Pascal, Harry, let's give him a chance. But they just don't have like their romantic connection. And she's just like, I don't love you. And she's like, you don't love me, And Harry's just like, you're right. I like don't think I could ever feel that. And she's like, okay, I'll take you on as one of my clients. I hate that. Hate that. Flash forward, okay, and this is where it gets real juicy. Is I maybe I'm misremembering the order of this also. She is like, fuck this. I'm dedicating my life to staying with Chris Evans. No, she doesn't do that. But she was planning to go to Iceland, so she sublet her apartment. That's the gag. Because then she has to go to his house, John's, her ex, and be like, hey, I have nowhere to stay. Like, can I stay at your house? And he's like, I live in a shitty apartment. You do not want to be here, but let's go on a trip. And so they drive to like upstate New York or something. They go on this fucking trip and they stop at like this wedding because he works for like a wedding, like not catering company, but like setup company, rental company. And so they like are at this wedding, they're dancing, they crash it. It's like a really cute moment. And then pretty much she's like, they're dancing in the middle of the floor. And did they kiss? I think they kissed. And he's like, what the fuck are we doing, girl? Like, pulls her outside. He's like, I can't do this. What are we doing? And she's just like, I don't know. I don't know. And then they rehash all of their bullshit about like, she's just like, I don't want to be poor. I want to like have things. I'm shallow. You don't want to be with me. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I love you. I love you. I love you. It literally makes me want to gag. And then all of a sudden, she gets a call from Sophie L. Oh my God. Sophie L calls her and is like, girl, I need you because the guy that you set me up with on a date is at my house. And I don't know who to call because she doesn't really have that many friends. So they have to drive back down to Manhattan. They drive down to Manhattan. And luckily, not Harry, the guy that she was set up with, like, was not there. Chris Evans drives her. They have like, he stays and plays security outside of their door. And she is like, thank you so much for helping me. She talks to Sophie, and then Sophie is just like, listen, like, you really fucked me over, but like, you were really here for me. And they pretty much are like apologetic towards each other. And I think this is where her character really comes to development for me because I'm like, okay, you know what? She is seeing the error of her ways. She comes back out in the morning because they like stay there overnight. Chris Evans is sleeping on the stoop. And she's like, hey, I love you. I want to be with you. I don't care if we're poor. And then the movie ends. Anyways, love Materialists. Go watch Materialists. So much to say. I wish Tara was here. She'll be here in the next episode. But thank you all for listening. Bye.